If you're a manifestor in human design, you've probably felt really frustrated by content advice that is telling you to show up consistently, to show up every day, because most business advice is assuming that you have the same style of energy, the same consistent energy every day, which is obviously not the case for you as a manifestor. When you are designed to initiate and to work in this burst rest style, then pretty much every content approach that you have probably learned is going to feel restrictive and a little bit draining for your energy. Yes, you are here to initiate, to make shit happen, but you're also here to rest before you feel tired. Today, we're talking about content creation for you as a manifestor, and specifically how to create the conditions that support your natural ability to initiate powerful conversations and powerful content while also respecting that need for a rest cycle. And I kind of see content in two different areas. We have the actual process of creating content and the ecosystem that is going to support you to create content consistently to grow your business. And then we have the things that you actually say, right? Like, what is the actual style of content you create? What platforms are you on? What we're actually focused on today is more so the first thing, right? So the bigger ecosystem to content creation, because if you are not creating an ecosystem that supports you, it's like the episode, that we did around, the Manifestor sales system. If you're not creating that ecosystem for sales, like, you are probably going to step outside of your design in order to find clients and make money. And it's the same thing with content creation. Like, yes, it's a really important consideration to think about the style of content you're creating, your expression, your tone of voice, the marketing platforms that are going to be most supportive for you. But if you are not creating that ecosystem that is going to support you to enjoy creating content and to do that in a way that is consistent for you, then it kind of doesn't matter if you have clarity on what you're going to say, right? So we're focused on that today. Before we dive into the manifestor specific approach though, I do want to share how I think about content creation for all types. Obviously, the application of this is going to change a little bit depending on your design, but overall, content success really does come down to having a main theme or a main message that you can repeat consistently. Now, for you as a manifestor, you are going to be initiating different things throughout your career, and that's a really important thing for you to be embracing. And also, it's likely that those things are going to be connected to, this overall movement, right? So I personally don't teach niche. I never have. I'm a manifesting generator in human design, so it's never really felt that aligned for me. But when it comes to repeating, and when it comes to creating, a brand that people really recognize, it really does come down to repetition. Now, again, the application of this is going to be a little bit different, but repeating that same movement of what you stand for, that's a really important part of building a brand that people trust and recognize. So in my business, that message is your business can feel like an exhale, right? You can create a business that loves you back, right? That lives under this richness without sacrifice umbrella. And so no matter what specific piece of content that I'm creating, that is the core message that is woven throughout everything. So within that core message that you are repeating, you can explore different themes. For you as a manifestor, you can initiate different conversations that are connected to that, right? So for me, as an example, I could be creating content on human design sales strategies, business foundations, the nervous system, internal family systems and parts work, mindset, but it's all connecting back to that central message of creating a business that loves you back. You can also look at your profile lines in human design to get more specific about the type of content you're creating, what this consistent sort of theme and message might be. But for the purposes of today, I just want to focus on the actual conditions that are going to help you continue to be devoted to sharing that main message and initiating different themes that are related to that message in a way that is sustainable for you as a non-sacral being. Because the real challenge isn't knowing what to say, you know what to say. It's creating the right conditions to be able to speak consistently, right? To share your message without depleting your energy, right? just because us as humans aren't consistent, it doesn't mean that our business can't be, right? And that starts with creating the conditions, both strategically in our business, like what systems do we need, but also what is supportive for us as a human to basically support our business to be consistent and to create consistent revenue. So let's talk about the conditions that support sustainable content creation for you as a manifestor. So the first thing, which is really important, probably the most important part of this ecosystem as it relates to content, is working with that surge rest cycle, but creating systems and infrastructure that is going to support that, right? So your best content is going to come when inspiration strikes, not when you're forcing it, but you move quickly. So as it relates to your content ecosystem, we need to make it incredibly easy to capture and act on those creative urges. So that might look like having an ideas note on your phone or using voice memos for immediate thoughts. You might have an AI project that is a brain dump project, or it might be, I love to have an ideation project. This is something that I teach a lot of my clients, and many of my clients, this is their most used project that they use in their AI large language model. And it's basically, so it's called ideation, and it really is just educated on that main message that I repeat and the themes around that. And so I might have an idea for a piece of content and I will like voice that out. And then what the AI reflects back to me is like the different ways that I could present this information based on the main themes and the main messages that I repeat. But secondly, the kind of content that I create. So for me, I love to do speaking reels. I also love to do carousels that are more in depth. I love to use all 20 slides in a carousel. And I obviously love to podcast as well. I love to do long form. I'm a line one in human design. And so it'll present and reflect back basically the ways that I can create, like turn that idea into a piece of content that is going to be on brand for me. So that is going to be really supportive for you as a manifestor because you move really quickly. Another thing that I have found really valuable for my manifestor clients and for me as well as a manifesting generator is having things templated out, right? So say, for example, you love to write blogs, then can you create a blog template that's really easy for you to rinse and repeat, right? So then what you can do is when you've got that blog template, you can then create an AI project. So all you need to be doing is have the idea, right? I personally don't use AI to like ideate and to come up with ideas. I just use it to support my execution, which for you as a manifestor is going to be really valuable, right? So if you blog, if you write, and script out your podcast and you have podcast episodes, like can you create something that makes it easy for you to go from having the idea that you want to initiate into getting that out there, right? I love to have Canva templates so I can just literally go in. Like people are so shocked that a lot of the content that I create is created by me. I do have a little bit of support, but it's easy for me, even as someone who is useless with Canva. I don't need to be good at it because I have templates, right? So I have templates that have been done by a graphic designer and I have them basically based on the style of content that I create predominantly, and I just make a copy of that, right? Because the key for you as a manifestor who moves really quickly is removing friction, right? Between your urge to create and actually getting it done. And so when you feel that surge of creative energy, you want to be able to act on it immediately. So what does that look like in your business? Then we want to build systems that support you during your rest periods. So that might look like a repurposing strategy, right? It could look like having an email funnel like we spoke about in the Manifestor sales episode. Because remember, content is not the start and end of your business. Even though most people worry about it the most and spend the most amount of time on it, it is one piece of the bigger sales ecosystem. But most people don't have the sales ecosystem in place. And so of course they're stressed about content because it literally is like all their eggs in that content basket, right? You might have content banks that can be scheduled during downtimes. When you are feeling really creative, you might create 10, 20 pieces of content. And I know there's that urge to get it all out there, but you might decide to get some of it out there and the rest can be scheduled, right? Again, as I mentioned, you might use AI tools to help you expand, to repurpose your ideas quickly. Like one of the things that I teach in our programs is so basic and it's so simple, but I have my content organized in a Google document. So For example, for my Instagram content, I will have, week commencing, 20th of July or whatever it is. And that will be, I have like a table of contents on the first page. And so I have like week commencing, week commencing, week commencing. It's like a list and you can click on it and go straight to that week. I love doing a table of contents in Google Docs. And I have every piece of Instagram content I have ever created. So if I go into a period where I'm like, I feel a little bit burnt out, like I feel tired, I want to, get some more rest in, or I'm doing a project behind the scenes, maybe I'm updating modules in Constantly Converting by Design, which is our signature program, or like whatever it is that I'm doing, I know that I can go in there and I can either slightly repurpose, and slightly tweak something I've already created, or I can literally just copy and paste and it will be a really high quality piece of content. But most people don't do that because we've kind of created this mentality and rule for ourselves where we can't reuse something. It's like, we can't wear the same thing twice. But secondly, most people have no system around anything. So it's really hard to repurpose. They've got everything in the notes app of their phone, which I don't know about you, but my notes app is a shit show, right? So we want to make it easy for you to basically have a consistent business, even in your rest cycle, right? And those systems that you create to support that are going to support your rest cycle, because this is important for you to actually be able to initiate. The more rested you are, the more powerful that initiation is going to be. The second thing that I want to mention, so the first is, making things easy for you to go from having the idea to execution. The second thing is to really focus on content that creates that immediate momentum, like the content that we read and we think, damn, like, I wish I thought of that, or I wish I had the balls to say that. I wish I had the courage to say that, right? Your gift is in initiating new conversations and kind of offering challenging perspectives sometimes. It's not about being contrarian for the sake of being contrarian, but you really are here to like pattern interrupt, right? And so really contemplate, what does it look like for you to have almost like a content pillar in your content process that's about this like pattern disrupting content? So you might be sharing frameworks that change how people think, things like that, right? Basically, the thing that I want to kind of share with you is like, don't water down your message to avoid resistance. Like, you have a closed and repelling aura for a reason, right? Like, you are here to say shit that pisses everyone else off, but also initiates them into curiosity and contemplation, right? And the right people will resonate, when you really own your voice and your opinion. So examples might be things like why everything I know about X, is about to change, or why everything you know about X topic is about to change, or I've discovered something game-changing about this particular topic, or nuances that I guess change my entire perspective on creating social media content, or like something like that, right? So like really sharing like pattern disrupting, like here's what I didn't realize I would learn from this thing, right? And it's really about, I guess, moving your industry and your whatever sort of service provider you are moving all of that forward in a different kind of direction. And the third thing is being direct with your informing strategy, right? Don't assume people are just going to get it, right? So your pattern interrupting, your revolutionary insights, it might feel really obvious to you, and it probably does, but that doesn't mean that it's obvious to everyone else, right? So if you feel like people aren't engaging with your content, check in on whether you've actually informed them clearly enough about why what you are sharing matters. So instead of hinting about big ideas, tell people directly. So here's what I'm seeing that most people are missing, or this changes everything about X and here's why. Part of being, I guess someone who's here to initiate us into new ideas is continuing to persist with that. But you also have to educate them consistently on why that matters, right? And so that's what I was getting at the beginning when I spoke about content generally, is like we also need to not just have that one and done piece of content about that topic. So you might have something that's like, this changes everything about X topic and here's why. But you might find 3 different ways to say that same thing, right? Because if you're, here to initiate us into something new, which you are, it's going to take time for the rest of us to sort of catch on to that, right? The last thing I want to mention as well is don't hold back because you're afraid of being too much. Like for you to be a successful manifestor business owner, this is part of the work, right? Is understanding that like people are going to find you too much. People are going to find you intense. Like that's going to be a reflection that you receive. And it's usually a sign that you're doing the right thing, right? You are designed to lead with bold perspectives. It's, again, as I mentioned, not about being contrarian or controversial for the sake of being contrarian, but you are here to initiate us into something that doesn't currently exist. And that is going to require some courage. And one of my favorite quotes is by Vaclav Havel. I don't know if I'm saying his name correctly, but it says, "Hope is not the conviction that something will turn out well, but the certainty that something makes sense regardless of how it turns out." And that feels so manifested to me because it is about this feels alive in me right now. And I'm not seeing this around me. I don't know if people are going to get it, but it feels important for me to share. And I think part of your work as a manifestor is doing the subconscious work, the energetic work. We're not going into that in detail today, but that is going to be part of the process, is like increasing that tolerance for projections, for you're really intense. I don't know how I feel about this energy. Like that is going to happen. And it's going to be, I guess, required for you to be successful as a manifestor in business. And you can still be, like loving and supportive. And, I work with manifestors who have a lot of like beautiful water energy in their astrology chart. And sometimes they find that challenging to balance that energy, but it is going to be a part of your process. So here are 3 things that you can set up right now to support your creative ecosystem. So number 1, create an ideas note on your phone. And if it feels aligned, start a voice memo folder or have an AI project or something like that, so you're ready when inspiration strikes. Which brings me to number 2, which is choosing a Canva template or an AI tool, an AI project that's going to help you remove that friction from your content creation process, right? So we want to make it as easy as possible for you to act on your urges. So based on your marketing platforms and the content that you create, what does that look like? And then number 3, schedule one automated sequence or batch of content for your next rest period. So when you are in that creative urge, be thinking about that. Be thinking about the fact that this is not going to last. I'm not going to have this same energy. What can I do now to give myself a little bit more permission to rest and not force myself when I am in a rest cycle? And look, we could have a whole conversation as well about being in tune with your own rest cycle as well. And I love to encourage clients to track the moon transits because the moon transits through, we're getting off track here, but the moon transits through all 12 zodiac signs on a monthly basis. So it's kind of easy and fast, to see like if there's some consistent patterns in that, especially if you're tracking over a couple of months. But we're not going there today, but I do think it's really valuable for you to start to get to know your unique cycle. All manifestors are going to be really different. And so starting to understand what your energetic cycles look like is going to be a really, really important thing. And just when you're in that like creative surge, like what does it look like to support your next rest period? Like what would give you permission to rest a little bit more, right? Because the most important thing for you is to make sure that you're working with both, right? Removing any resistance to you just doing the damn thing as a manifestor while also keeping in mind what is going to be supportive for your next rest cycle. And when you create systems that support that surge rest cycle while making it easy to act on those creative urges, your content is going to become a really powerful catalyst for change and one of your most important business assets.